everybody, it's Maureen Wong for Your Next Stamp. Today I have a start to finish video making this card, Merry and Bright, and hopefully you can see on the houses I've drawn in little Christmas lights, and that's the Merry and Bright part of the card. So let's get started. Okay, to get started, let me show you what we're going to be using today from Your Next Stamp. This is the Houses on a Hill die. This is the Snowfall stamp set. And this is the Snow Fun stamp set from a previous release, and we're using the sentiment Merry and Bright from this set. And then, in the way of materials, I have a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 card base. This is done the long way. I've got a piece of craft cardstock that is 4 by 5 1/4. I really like the look of white and craft for winter combinations. I think it's a really nice combination. And then this is a little white cardstock panel that is 3 1/2 by 4 inches. And this is actually what I'm going to be using to cut the Houses on a Hill die with. So what I want to show you first is the Houses on a Hill die. And in case you're not familiar with it, there's a certain way that it works. Let me show you this cutout I did already. This roof is supposed to be flat. You kind of can cut it any way you want at any angle, but your houses are going to look kind of funny because it's not going to be straight. So the way to get it straight when you're cutting it, I'll show you this little trick. You turn over your die, and this is the tree side and this is the little house side. So right next to the little house is this flat portion. I'm going to line it up kind of where I think I want it, and then I'm going to take a pencil and draw a little dot above that flat line roof. And then I'm going to take my T ruler. Let me get this off. Oh, I know. I use a block for that. And I'm just going to line up my ruler with the side of the paper, and then I'm going to draw a short line by that dot, and that should be a straight line. And then when I go to line up my die, I'm going to try and line up that rooftop flat with that line. And if your tree is going to go outside because of the angle, your tree might go outside of the top. What you can do is just move it a little down and try and keep an even amount of space under there so that you'll be cutting a straight line. And then I'm going to stick this down with a little bit of painter's tape and run that through my die cut machine. Okay, so here's the piece cut. I'm going to carefully remove the painter's tape. And then you can see how I've got this straight line, and then you just want to take an eraser and carefully erase that pencil line. So when you do your pencil line, obviously you don't want to do it too heavy and dark because then you're going to have a hard time completely erasing it. And we're not going to be doing much to this die cut. It's just pretty much going to stay plain white except for a little bit of color, which I'll show you in a minute. So you kind of want to be careful about not drawing a really hard, heavy, dark line. And then you can see that this die doesn't go all the way to the edges, and that is to let you figure out where you want this to go. So I just get a scissors. Let me zoom in a little bit, maybe you can see that. Here's a tiny little bit of an edge that's left, and I'm just going to take my scissors and cut that straight off. And then on this side you can see that there's a little bit right next to the house that's not cut, so we're just going to cut that tiny little bit, and there we go, there's our die cut. And you can see the way that it's cut, because I made that roof line straight, it looks correct. And so that's the little trick about cutting this die, the Houses on a Hill die. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a little bit more festive than just a plain white. So I'm taking some Copic markers, and I have B05, and I'm going to do the middle one with the B05. And what I'm going to do is just put tiny, tiny, tiny little dots of color, and that's going to be Christmas lights that they have put up on their buildings. So I'll just put a little bit here, and then I'll just put a little bit up on the top. And then for my houses on either side, I decided to do red and green light. So I have R37 and G07. So I'm just going to go with the R37 first. And I'm going to space my dots out a little bit so that I have room to put my green dots in. Just like that. Let me zoom in. Can you see that? Okay, and then on the little house too, I'm going to do it again, spacing them out just a little bit. You don't want them too tiny or you won't be able to see them. But these are supposed to be really itty bitty Christmas lights. So just tiny little dots. And now I'm coming in with the G07 in between the red dots. And there we go. Now our houses have Christmas lights on them. Okay, let me zoom out here. Now what I'm going to do is take my craft cardstock panel and the Snowfall stamp set, and I'm going to take this big snowy background one. Okay, and then I'm just going to take white ink. This is from Stampin' Up. This is their craft white ink. And I'm going to ink up my stamp. And I'm going to put in a bit of snowfall in the background. I might not even need 2 strips of this, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. And then what I'm going to do is take my Houses on the Hill die cut portion, and I'm going to put foam tape all on the back of it because I want it a little bit off of the background. So I have this 3M foam tape. It's not very thick, so you don't have a lot of lift, but you have just enough lift to get that off the back of the card, and I like just that little bit of lift. And then let me get a little piece for this top portion. And I'm not going to worry about those portions. You can see they'll stick up fine on their own, even without putting foam behind them, because I don't want to have the foam sticking out or showing up behind the windows and doors. And so that should just be enough foam tape to keep it up. And then what I'm going to do is take my card base. Oh, you know what I forgot? I forgot to stamp my sentiments, so let's carefully peel this foam tape off. And I didn't press it down too hard. Geez, just about every video I make, I'm making some kind of mistake, and you're going to learn how to fix mistakes really well by watching all my videos. So I didn't press that down really hard. You can see some of the paper is lifting off, but that's not a really big deal. Now I'm just going to carefully peel off this foam tape and lay it to the side so I can stamp down my sentiment. Okay, and like I said before, we're using the Snow Fun stamp set. And I'll just get my Merry and Bright sentiments. And I am just going to stamp that right in black. I think black in this case is fine, even though nothing else on this card is black. I think a nice solid sentiment on the front would be a nice contrast to all the white. So there we go, Merry and Bright, and of course I use my VersaFine Onyx Black, which I always use for sentiments, because it gives a really nice, clean, clear stamping. Okay, and now we're going to go back in and figure out how these foam tape pieces go on, just like that, and the little one at the top. Okay, that looks good. So I'm going to take my craft cardstock piece and my ATG gun and put adhesive on the back of my craft cardstock piece and adhere that to my white card base. This is a standard A2 size card base. Okay, and now I'm going to take off the liners from the foam tape. And put that right at the bottom. Lined up on the craft panel. And you want to be careful with your sentiment. The VersaFine ink does take a little while to dry, so I wouldn't touch that right away. But there is the finished card. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you over at yournextstamp.com. You can find all of these products and many, many more. Thanks for watching.